This chart shows the percentage of Americans who socialized in person on an average day. In 2014, it was 38%. By 2024, that number dropped to 30%. The decline is severe enough that U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy issued a formal advisory in 2023, comparing the mortality risks of this isolation to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Major reporting from the Harvard Chan School and the WHO consistently identifies the trend, but they almost always route the data to the mental health desk. It is described as a generational struggle with anxiety or a personal battle with technology. This framing leads to a very specific set of advice: log off social media, put down your phone, or force yourself to join a local club. But treating a massive population-wide shift as a collection of individual failures makes it impossible to see the structural cause. We need to consider whether loneliness is a direct outcome of our physical environment rather than our internal emotions. Robert Putnam, the Harvard scholar who wrote the canonical text on the collapse of American community, has spent decades tracking how our social capital disappeared. Putnam recently addressed younger generations directly, stating, "You didn't cause the problem. We caused this problem, but it's fallen to you to fix it." This shifts the investigation toward a specific possibility, that our isolation is the result of changes we made to the world we inhabit. If we assume the individual isn't the one who is broken, we have to look at what actually changed in the physical spaces where connection used to happen. In 1989, sociologist Ray Oldenburg identified a specific category of space he called the third place. These were neutral grounds outside the home and the workplace, where repeated, unprogrammed social life occurred. These were the neighborhood barbershops, cafés, and community centers, places where connection was a routine byproduct of just being there. But over the last few decades, these anchors have been disappearing. In the United Kingdom, 16,000 pubs closed since 2000, 1/3 of local drinking houses gone. In the United States, bowling centers collapsed from 10,000 in 1980 to 2,500 today, a 75% industry contraction within a working life. These losses are not just businesses failing. They represent the steady eradication of the physical infrastructure that once made in-person connection routine. This disappearance was driven by 4 specific mechanisms, starting with how we divide our land. Post-war zoning laws heavily restricted mixed-use neighborhoods. When residential houses are strictly separated from shops and cafés, the third place becomes a destination you have to drive to, rather than a place you naturally pass through. Second, commercial real estate shifted. Rising rents and retail consolidation steadily priced independent operators, the bookshops and bakeries that host community life, off the high street. Third, our time was compressed. Full-time workers in the U.S. now average over 8 hours of work on the days they are employed, leaving less room for the spontaneous socializing these spaces once absorbed. The final mechanism is the attention economy. The average adult now spends 7 hours a day on a screen, which has become the default way to fill the remaining gaps in our schedules. But notice the timeline. Physical spaces were dismantled long before the first smartphone was sold. If we blame social media for the loneliness epidemic, we are reading the chronology backwards. The attention economy didn't destroy our social life. It moved into the space that our social infrastructure had already vacated. To address the problem, we need the vocabulary provided by sociologist Eric Kleinenberg: social infrastructure. This term describes the libraries, parks, and community centers that host repeated, low-cost encounters. They are the physical substrate civic life runs on, just as vital as our water mains or our power grids. When we fund and maintain these spaces, we create the possibility for the unprogrammed social life that is currently missing. Naming this infrastructure changes the conversation. It moves us away from asking what's wrong with us and toward asking what was taken apart and by which decisions. This makes the solution concrete. It means debating zoning reform, library funding, transit investment, and commercial rent regulations that keep independent operators on the street. Reversing the loneliness epidemic does not require coaching people to like one another. It requires rebuilding the rooms where being together was once allowed to happen.